It's time to overreact, Denver Broncos fans. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose on a very rough voice day here on the Broncos Breakdown. So trust me when I say this, I'm going to try and make this as concise as I can so that you don't have to listen to this god-awful croak that is coming from my throat. I'm going to get into the overreaction storylines of the Broncos win over the Tennessee Titans in Week 1. But before I do that, what is your one-word reaction to Denver's win? If I had to simply put it, ugly. It wasn't good. But a win is a win, regardless. And you're going to see that in my list of overreactions, there are some very good things to take away and going into Week 2 against the Indianapolis Colts, and there are some very ugly things to be concerned about going into Week 2 against the Colts. Let's start with the ugly. Is it time to worry about Bo Nix? No, it's not. However, I do think it should be important to note that yesterday was as bad as it should get. Let's just take a look at this stat line and say, if this is the worst that it gets from Bo Nix, the Broncos are in a very, very good spot because this was awful. His QB rating was like a 59.5. He looked jumpy in the pocket. He never got his feet set. And he tried way too hard to make these highlight plays. I don't know where he came across looking to try to do this sidearm across the body throw. He did it 5 or 6 times during the game yesterday. That's not what we need from Bo Nix. It almost felt like Bo has been listening to the critics that ESPN has been saying he's not an athlete, he's a system quarterback, he's a captain checkdown, and it almost felt like it got in his head. He was trying to do too much. And here's my advice to Bo. Stop thinking. Just do. I know Sean Payton has a complex offense. I know there's a lot of pre-snap motion. I realize that you're trying to go out and prove that you are far better than the expectations set on you by the chumps over at ESPN. But here's what I'll say. Don't give them a reason to prove themselves right. What you need to do, drop back 3 times, 1, 2, 3 step drop, plant the back foot, and make the throw. I don't care if it's a 6-yard check down. Take what the defense gives you. There will be times during every single football game where you have to be spectacular. Pick and choose your times to be spectacular. Not every throw has to be a highlight reel throw. That's my advice to Bo. Let's go on to our second overreaction because I don't think it's quite ready, quite time to say Bo's in a sophomore slump, as the title may suggest. Offensive line concerns. Were you concerned about the offensive line? Well, in the first half, I was. And then the second half came about. And I think there's one specific statistic that proves that they just needed to shake the rust off. They finished with 151 yards rushing yesterday, and they only ran the ball 9 times in the first half. It was clear that in the second half, the commitment to giving the ball to J.K. Dobbins and the commitment to letting RJ Harvey make plays was a major, major emphasis for this team in the second half. And it should have been, because Bo struggled all day long. So now, looking at what you were able to do with RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins, you clearly saw the 1-2 punch. You saw J.K. Dobbins' ability to cut back quicker than he normally would. I did not think he had nearly the cuts and the bag that he showed yesterday. I thought he was going to be more north to south, and he could do that too. RJ Harvey, clearly one of the players that when you give him open space, he's going to do damage. That 50-yard run was a thing of beauty, and that's a huge momentum driver for the Denver Broncos. So, I think there was a lot of good stuff to take away from the offensive line, specifically in the second half. But if I'm looking at this starting Broncos offensive line, if they stay healthy and can do what they did in the second half, it is going to be a very, very good year for this Denver Broncos offense. Because, reminder, there wasn't a ton of snaps played in the preseason. This was their first full game, their first full moment back in real football action. The rust is off. Now it's time to dominate. Before I get into my other overreactions, let me tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day, but at Prize Picks, you can get paid to be right. And I know you love that as much as I do. So here's what you got to do. Not miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. It's simple to play. Pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. It is the best way to win cash this football season. You can join millions of users and sign up today. It's the best place to win cash while watching sports. So download the Prize Picks app and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Our third overreaction. Is it time to crown the Broncos as the best defense in the NFL? If you go back and listen to the talking heads over at The Volume, Colin Cowherd and John Middlecoff, who I like to pick and choose, what their analysis is because sometimes it feels biased. But John Middlecoff had a very interesting quote. And he said, not only does the Broncos defense look strong, they are the fastest defense I have seen in the NFL. Now, it's only week 1, but I think that statement rings true. We had a dominant performance, according to Pat Surtain. He said, we started off the season like that. It should allow us to separate ourselves as the Broncos defense and then everyone else, which I thought was super inspiring. The hype felt great, and I loved what I saw because every unit played well yesterday. Riley Moss was sticky in coverage, especially in man coverage. Pat Surtain, Cam Ward wasn't even targeting Pat Surtain's side of the ball. Jaquan McMillan made a play when he needed to. Zach Allen, Benito, Cooper, Ellis, Justin Stranad got sacks. I mean, it was a dominant performance from the very beginning to the very end. Highlighted by this graph, this chart. If you take a look at what I'm seeing, total net yards for the Tennessee Titans, 113. They average 2 yards per play and an EPA of negative 0.601. That's terrible. You want some team stats? 7 first downs. They had 13 penalties. And remember, when teams get sloppy like that, they are doing everything they can. They're going to hold more. They're going to jump quicker off the offensive line in pre-snap penalties. They're going to get more aggressive and frustrated. So it's not just a indictment on how bad the Tennessee offense was. The Broncos were making them so frustrated, they committed more penalties. 13 penalties for 131 yards is insane. And they only had 133 total. They almost had more penalty yards than they did total yards. And I got to give a major shout out to the most recent $106 million Bronco, Benito, who set the edge, pinched with Jonathan Cooper, and actually, believe it or not, showed a much better understanding, patience, and aggressiveness in the run defense. His ability to scope out play action plays and when there was going to be a handoff or an RPO was ridiculously impressive. He also had 3 quarterback hits. So getting to the quarterback, which is what we're paying him to do, he does at an elite level. So I'll ask you this. Put the crown out, because I'm saying yes. Do the Broncos have the best defense in the NFL? Yes or no? Let me know in the comment section down below. Our fourth overreaction, this one comes by way of injury. Evan Engram. Is it time to panic about his injury concern after he limped off the sideline yesterday? Well, let's talk about it because Luka Evans had an interesting quote. Here's what he said. It took all of 3 quarters for serious injury concerns to surface around 2 of the Broncos' more important veteran free agent additions. It was a cruel development in an ugly Week 1 win. Denver's passing offense already sputtering before Ingram's exit. Now remember, it was that little calf injury that he had. And here's what I thought was most telling. He threw his helmet when he limped off the sideline in the fourth quarter. Now, if it's just a minor strain or maybe a bone bruise or just a tweaker or a stinger, you wouldn't throw your helmet like that. The fact that he threw his helmet lets me know he thinks it's serious. So, overreaction. My concern levels are growing over the Broncos' injuries. Dre Greenlaw, all offseason, we're told he'll be fine, he'll be fine, he'll be fine. Soft tissue quad injury, out week 1. Malcolm Roach, he's on short-term IR. Drew Sanders, he's on short-term IR. Evan Engram, where's he at now? We'll wait for the development. We'll wait for the injury report. But my injury concerns are growing. They might have been about a 3 prior to this week. Now they're probably at a 5 or a 10. Or 5 or a 10. 5 or a 6. But you let me know. What's your concern level on the Broncos' injuries? Scale it 1 to 10 for me. 10 being like, I'm the most concerned I've ever been. I'm about to shit my pants. And 1 being like, I'm not concerned about it at all. I'm going to say I'm like at a, maybe 5, 6 is too high. Maybe 4.5 to 5. Either way, it's higher than it was going into week 1. And injuries happen. But we took gambles and risks on players that had injury concerns. Our final overreaction. Sean Payton's play calling. What did you think of it? Because I went back and I rewatched some of the highlights. And the first half play calling I thought was not good. I thought it got too overcomplicated. It got too creative. It got too intelligent. It got too cute. They were trying to do too much in the first half. And sometimes I feel like because Sean Payton is such an innovative play-calling offensive head coach, he can fall into the trap of, I have such a vision for how this is going to look, I make it too complex. It's also why he switched to one-word play calling. He's not spitting out all of these long, drawn-out soliloquies of play calls. But then something happened in the second half. Halftime into the second half. He committed to the run after just 9 carries in the first half, which showed me that Sean Payton made the adjustments necessary heading into the second half. And I was happy to see that. All the Broncos fans that were in the chat were like, why are we not running the ball more? We signed J.K. Dobbins. We draft RJ Harvey. We have Tyler Bidet. Run the football. And he did. The Broncos ended up with 151 yards rushing. That's great. That's really, really great. 50 of it came from RJ Harvey. But remember, all of this bleeds into each other. From the play call to the offensive line scheme to the running backs making havoc when they bounce outside, cut back up the middle like we saw with J.K. Dobbins. I was really happy to see that Sean Payton took his tenure as a head coach and said, whatever we're doing in the passing game is not working. I'm going to focus more on pounding the rock against the Titans here in the second half and try to close this game out, which is exactly what they did. Before I end today's episode, I do have to say thank you and well done to you guys. 660 subs gained on yesterday's live stream. That's impressive. We only need 194 now to hit 40,000 subscribers. So if you're a Broncos fan that just found our channel or have been watching for quite some time but haven't hit that sub button and you want all Broncos news all the time, hit that subscribe button. I've got you covered. Until next time, Broncos Country, we'll be back later on today with another video surrounding some injury news, some more rumors, and all things Broncos related. My high salute. Broncos are 1-0. Be cool.